I'm Melissa Shanahan, and this is the Velocity Work Podcast, episode number 64. This podcast is for attorneys who are running their own firms. We explore tactics, tools, and stories related to pushing past simply lawyering well and into building a successful firm. Working in your firm and working on your business are two very different things. This podcast focuses on the latter. Hello, my friends. Welcome to this week's episode. I'm so excited to talk to you today. I have so many ideas right now about the things I could talk to you about and that I could present here on the podcast for you. One thing at a time, though, right? One thing at a time. I'm hoping that where you're loving the weather. It's turning winter here, and we got 8 inches of snow yesterday and last night. And you know what? I hope it keeps coming. I love this. I love the snow on the ground, and I love it when it totally covers everything, not just like kind of covers the grass. That's pretty, but it's like when there's a really white blanket across everything, it's so peaceful and it's so silent and it's so pure, and I love it so much. Now, I'm sitting inside looking out my window at it. If I had to be outside in it all day, I probably wouldn't love the snow as much, but it's beautiful. And I like going for walks because it's so quiet going for a walk. Even on a normal day where people are out and about, you just can't hear people because of the snow. I love the silence. So I'm in heaven. I hope you are loving whatever the weather is like where you are. Today we are talking about rest. Y'all know that I am all about getting things done. There's so much goodness behind really growing and stretching yourself in ways that it sort of forces you to become the kind of person you need to be in order to achieve the kinds of things you want to achieve for your firm or for your life. And there's much behind that we can practice and that we can implement, and behavior changes and habits and learning more and more about ourselves. So, in the sprint and in mastery group, which is like this ongoing group that I have with accountability and all of that built into it. And then there's some months we amp it up with a sprint, and people can participate if they would like in those sprints. So we're coming off of the end of a sprint here. I am observing that while the participants are practicing all of the things that they're supposed to be doing, they're supposed to be doing a Monday map. They're supposed to be doing a Friday wrap. These are two processes, sort of frameworks that are put into place that they have to do. They are supposed to make a very good plan, which is part of the Monday map. And then their job is to honor the plan through the week. And that sounds very simple, but it isn't easy. And we work a lot on that. And where did things get off track? What were the reasons that things got off track? Is it because it truly was, you couldn't have stayed on track? Like you had to be pulled away from the plan that you made because maybe a very urgent matter came up, or you hit a barrier that you weren't anticipating? Like, what is it? And when we identify that, we really work through, because most of the time we get off track, it is us. We can look back at us and we can see that, like, I didn't prevent interruptions. I didn't prevent distractions. I allowed myself to not follow through on the thing I said I was going to do because I really didn't feel like it. When you really get honest with yourself, that's what the thing was. And we look at that and we evaluate that. And these members have been getting better and better and stronger at this. Now, this culture of really dialing in this way, what can happen is you, especially in a sprint month, you have this result that you want to create, and you're working very hard to create it and to get it all done. And you will put work on the weekends or in your free time, or in the evenings, let's say, but in your free time, and you will honor that work. Like, that's what we're supposed to do in a sprint, right? But the putting the work where you decide to put the work is 100% up to you. I don't look at people's calendars, right? So it's more just make a plan and honor your plan. But if you're making plans and you're putting work in the space that you would typically have as rest, and I don't mean sleep, that's very important. I mean, just rest, just a break, right? This period that will help rejuvenate you and refresh you so that you are strong when the next week begins or when your next day begins. If you're putting work into space that really, if you're honest, should be designated for rest, you have to ask yourself what that's about, and is it necessary? There are a number of ways to evaluate this for yourself, but don't overanalyze it. You just know, right? If you really you want to create a space in which you don't work on the weekends, then that is what you should be working towards. That is what 100% you should be creating, is this week that happens so that you don't have to work on the weekends. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because, the sprint has been a really awesome month where people are pushing hard. But what's happening is, we're at the end. Actually, we did 2 sprints in a row. So there are most of the participants that were taking part in the October sprint had already done a September sprint. So this is their second sprint month in a row, and really staying dialed in and really staying focused and accomplishing big things. Like it's no joke, but they're tired. Right? And they should be tired, and that's fine. But what I don't want for them is to get to the end of October and they're just totally petered out, where they can't even, the first half of November is going to be sort of useless when it comes to creating any sort of results for themselves because they're tired and they need a break. It's almost like they hit a wall or they're burned out. That is not what the purpose of a sprint is for. And I can see how that can happen. And each participant gets to decide how they want to use the sprint. But my advice and what I try to steer people towards is use the sprint to really dial in and hone in on you and how you show up, but not at the cost of you, not at the expense of you. So I'm asking everybody who's listening to this podcast, I want you to be very honest when you look at your weeks and your work and your life. Where are you? We're all trying really hard for different things, right? Where are you doing so at the cost of you? And probably the loved ones around you, if you have a family, all of that. So I'm felt necessary to do this podcast because we talked about it this morning on our daily accountability calls, and it was fantastic. It was a really good conversation, and people really were on the same page with it. And then there was someone else who actually said, okay, my lesson learned is something around, it almost feels like the opposite, which is, I'm probably going to botch his lesson. I don't have it pulled up in front of me, but his lesson was something around reach for the next level so that you can see what you're capable of. Actually, I'm just going to pull it up because I'm going to botch it. Let's see here. Okay. He said, push yourself to a high level to see how high level you can be. Okay, yeah, I 100% agree with that. I love that lesson because what I do agree with is that, that whole idea that it's like reaching for the next rung on the ladder, but knowing that it's not about the next rung, it's about the reach. It's about the stretch. And so each time you stretch to reach for to reach for the next rung, even if you fall short, who you had to become in that stretch is everything. That is everything. Because as you build capacity for reaching and for grabbing the next rung, you just build this capacity. That is that is a perfect example of how you are becoming who you need to be in order to achieve the things that you want to achieve. It's about the reach. It's about the stretch. And so when he says push yourself to a high level, see how high level you can be, 100%, I think that's true. Because we always, even if we fall a little bit short, the next time we go for it, we get a little further. And it's really about the reach. It's not about the goal. It's not about achieving the goal. If you want to hit $1 million this year and you fall short and you get to, 921,000, is that a fail? No. Because everything that had to happen in order to stretch for the $1 million is so good for, it's like just creating this foundation and this strength for the next thing that you want to reach for. So it's so good. And so that lesson, push yourself to a high level, see how high level you can be, it was like, oh, maybe I'm giving the opposite of this whole idea of rest. But actually, no, I don't think so, because I think both need to happen simultaneously. I think when you push yourself to a high level to see how high level you can be in that reach, you must take care of yourself. You must protect your ability and your strength to continue to reach, right? If you tire out, then you give up. Then you kind of hit a wall, and that's not what we want. We want to develop ourselves, not just like, slam ourselves into a wall and just it takes us a few weeks to recover. You really want to develop yourself. So this idea of rest, I'm kind of trying to tie this all back together. Resting is very important when you are reaching for the next rung on the ladder. When you push yourself to a high level to see how high level you can be, resting must be a part of that equation. Because if it isn't, you're going to peter out before you could ever begin to reach that goal that you're striving for, that desire or that result that you want to create. So rest is an important aspect of the growth equation. Whether we're talking about the growth of you, whether we're talking about the growth of the firm, whatever it is, anytime you're trying to really grow something and develop something and strengthen something and you're reaching, you're stretching, rest must be a part of it. And I don't mean just enough sleep at night. I mean, like, there are times, really big windows, at least 24 hours, but that would be awesome if you could have the whole weekend. And to each their own. Everybody's in a different place right now, and I'll speak to that in a moment. But whatever it is, a big span of hours that's not sleeping, that is not, like, work doesn't enter that. It is for you to think about other things and to spend time with loved ones and to focus on things that aren't work and maybe to go just to relax and rejuvenate. Don't allow your brain to go to work during those set hours, because then you're not really resting from the work. You're not really resting from the stretch. And it's important to take the space to rest so that when you come back on Monday, you're ready to go. You are ready to roll, and you can be that much stronger and be that much more on point that week because you rested. So that's what I got for you today, my friends, is just really think about in your situation, first of all, are you reaching for the next level? Because that's important. We should be growing. Humans are their happiest when they're playing at their edge. So when you are reaching, push yourself to a high level, see how high level you can be, and incorporate rest. Don't do it at the cost of you, because if you don't rest, that is only going to deplete you instead of allow you to continue to grow, stretch, reach. I wanted to say too, to each their own, right? You know where you are. Rest is important, and you can decide how much you can give yourself. For me, in this period, this last quarter, me and my team are working behind the scenes really diligently, creating a lot of content. I'm working with members. It's different. This has a different pace than in some periods of my business. And so for me, on the weekends, I do work for about 6 hours on Saturdays, and then I'm done, and I don't work on Sunday. And then I'm ready. I have like so I usually work from the morning. So like 8 a.m. on Saturday to 2. And then I'm done. I enjoy the rest of the weekend entirely. And then I'm ready to go back on Monday. Now, for some of you, you don't work the weekends. That doesn't need to happen in your business right now. So then you get all of Saturday, all of Sunday, maybe, right? And for some of you, maybe you get all of Friday, all of Saturday, all of Sunday. I don't know what it is for you. And that's the beauty of this, is we get to decide right now what makes the most sense. And you also get to decide, what are you working towards? So for me, I know starting next year, I'm not going to be working Saturdays. I'm getting stuff dialed in a way that will really allow me there isn't going to be that need for me to have that many hours in the business. So that's great, right? I know that. I'm working towards that, and I'm working diligently towards that. And so for you, what is it that you need right now? Make sure that rest is built in, at least a 24-hour period, preferably more, where you get to just turn off from work entirely. And that way you're rejuvenated. So To each their own, figure out what's best for you. But the important questions to ask are you not resting enough? Is this push for growth, this push for business? And many of you listen to this, it's like you're constantly pushing and you're in the busyness of it all. It's not even necessarily headway on the business. You're just working nonstop and the work is always going to be there, right? How can you decide what you're going to do to make sure that you get enough rest that you can keep going, that this is a sustainable growth process and you're not going to peter out early and have this cycle, this sucky cycle where it's like burnout, like go, burnout, and then unproductive for a stretch. And then you kind of muster it up again and go, and then burnout. And that's such an unhappy cycle. It's such an unfulfilling cycle. And so if you're in that for yourself, I really encourage you to dial it back, take control where you have control, designate the hours you're going to rest, designate the hours you're going to work. And when it's time to work, you get to work. No distractions. No, like plan out your time. How are you going to spend it? Expect a lot from yourself during the work hours and set yourself up to win at that game. And when it's not work hours, you turn it off. Okay, everybody. I hope that was helpful. I hope you're having a wonderful week. We will see you back here next week. Hey there. If you enjoyed this podcast, I highly recommend you come and check out Mastery Group. It is where owner attorneys come together to study this material, apply it, and thus create really big results for their firm and for their life. So come on over, velocitywork.com/join to get more information and get started. Show notes from this episode can be found at velocitywork.com/podcast.